Imagine walking into your college dorm room, a laptop open in front of you, ideas swirling in your head, and a simple question burning in your mind. What if I could connect the entire world? Most people see a dorm room as a place to study, sleep, and occasionally binge-watch shows. But for one student at Harvard, it became the starting line for something no one could have predicted. Mark Zuckerberg, a college dropout at the age of 19, didn't just leave school. He left the conventional path of life itself. While millions were grinding through their lectures, exams, and internships, Mark was building a platform that would eventually touch billions of lives and reshape the way humans interact. By the time you finish this video, you'll see how one decision, a risky leap into the unknown, turned a young student into one of the most influential figures of the 21st century. But this isn't just another story of overnight success. Behind the headlines of billion-dollar valuations, Facebook IPOs, and flashy tech launches, lies a tale of obsession, missteps, betrayals, and relentless ambition. You're about to uncover the story that textbooks and business schools don't always tell, the raw human story of Mark Zuckerberg. Think about it. What makes a dropout from a prestigious university become a billionaire while thousands of equally talented peers struggle to find their first job? How does a single idea snowball into a movement that changes society forever? And most importantly, what lessons are hidden in this journey that you can apply to your own life? By the end of this journey, you won't just know how Facebook started. You'll understand the mindset, choices, and risks that allowed one person to rewrite the rules of the digital age. Here's the kicker. What seems like luck, chance, or genius at first glance is actually a mix of relentless curiosity, technical brilliance, and a refusal to conform. And right at this moment, sitting in his Harvard dorm room, Mark had no idea the empire he was about to create or the storm it would bring him. The question is, how did a computer science student with messy hair, thick glasses, and a bit of social awkwardness go from coding in his room to changing the way billions of people live, work, and communicate? That's the story we're about to dive into. Before we dive into Mark Zuckerberg's journey, let's pause and consider why this story matters. Not just for tech fans, but for anyone chasing ambition, ideas, or financial freedom. This isn't just a tale of wealth. It's a blueprint for risk, vision, and resilience. By watching this video, you'll uncover the mindset of a disruptor, what goes through the mind of someone who challenges the status quo, who looks at a crowded world of social networks and thinks, I can do it better? The blueprint of taking risks. Leaving Harvard at 19 might sound reckless, but it's a calculated gamble with massive rewards. You'll see how strategic risks, when combined with skill and vision, can change a life. The human side of success. Behind the billionaire persona lies tension, betrayal, and the moral dilemmas of success. Zuckerberg's story isn't sugar-coated. It's raw, messy, and relatable. Lessons for anyone with big ideas. Whether you're an entrepreneur, a student, or someone looking to redefine your career, there are insights in his journey about focus, persistence, and prioritizing what truly matters. This is more than just how Facebook was built. It's about seeing the cracks in the conventional path and daring to carve your own. Most of us are conditioned to follow a linear journey. School, degree, job, retirement. Zuckerberg ignored that map. He took an uncharted route, and while it wasn't without pain, it led to a level of impact most of us only dream about. Here's the exciting part. Understanding this story gives you a front-row seat to the early decisions, the mistakes, and the gambles that shaped one of the most transformative companies in human history. You'll see exactly how small choices, like leaving a lecture hall or choosing a project over grades, can ripple into massive outcomes. So, if you've ever wondered how someone goes from a normal college student to a global icon, this is the story you cannot miss. And as we go deeper, you'll start to see patterns in his choices, patterns that are repeatable, understandable, and maybe even applicable to your own life. But before Mark was designing the first lines of code that would connect friends across the world, he was just a kid with an extraordinary curiosity, a knack for programming, and a relentless desire to see the world differently. And that's where our story really begins. His early life, the moments that quietly set the stage for something monumental. Mark Zuckerberg was born on May 14, 1984, in White Plains, New York. a quiet suburb that might seem an unlikely starting point for a future tech titan. But even as a child, Mark's world was already wired differently. He wasn't interested in typical childhood games or sports. Instead, he was fascinated by puzzles, computers, and the mechanics of how things worked. His father, Edward Zuckerberg, was a dentist, and his mother, Karen, a psychiatrist. They encouraged curiosity, logic, and intellectual exploration. From a young age, Mark demonstrated an uncanny ability to learn complex concepts quickly. At just 12, he created a messaging program called ZuckNet that allowed computers in his house and his father's dental office to communicate. It was a small, personal project, but it was an early glimpse of his lifelong obsession, connecting people through technology. Even in middle school, Mark showed signs of brilliance combined with a quiet intensity. While other kids played video games, he dissected them. He learned programming languages like BASIC and C++ almost effortlessly, turning code into a form of self-expression. Friends and teachers noticed something unusual. He wasn't just smart, he was relentlessly focused. Once he set his mind on something, nothing could pull him away. High school brought a turning point. At Phillips Exeter Academy, a prestigious boarding school, Mark's talents began to outshine even the most gifted peers. Here, he not only excelled academically but also built programs and games that earned him local recognition. One notable creation was Synapse, a music player software that used artificial intelligence to learn a user's listening habits. When companies like Microsoft and AOL offered to buy it, Mark, then just 16, declined. This was one of the first signs that he wasn't chasing money. He was chasing vision, control, and innovation. Yet, Mark wasn't just a coding prodigy. He had a social side, though it was subtle. He loved debating, exploring ideas, and challenging assumptions, a trait that would later serve him well in Harvard's intellectually charged environment. But even then, people could see his intensity. His focus on ideas sometimes made him seem aloof, distant, or unusually confident for his age. By the time he graduated high school, it was clear Mark Zuckerberg was not destined for an ordinary path. He had a sharp mind, an insatiable curiosity, and a deep understanding of how technology could influence human behavior. These early experiences, from creating ZuckNet to rejecting multimillion-dollar offers, set the foundation for the visionary he was about to become. Harvard University wasn't just another stop on Mark Zuckerberg's path. It was the launchpad. Surrounded by some of the brightest minds in the country, Mark found himself in a world brimming with opportunity, competition, and the perfect storm for innovation. But the idea that would eventually become Facebook didn't emerge from a boardroom or a strategy session. It came from something much simpler, a curiosity about social connection. In 2003, online social networks were still in their infancy. MySpace was gaining traction, Friendster was making waves, and the concept of connecting people digitally was novel but messy. People were clamoring to find a way to express themselves online, but existing platforms were cluttered, awkward, and lacked elegance. Mark saw the problem clearly. Social networks existed, but they weren't intuitive, personal, or centralized. He realized that college students wanted a simple, elegant way to connect with each other. A digital community built around identity, trust, and exclusivity. The spark came when Mark, along with his roommates and friends, began tinkering with online directories. Harvard had Facebook's printed directories with student photos, but they were limited, outdated, and impersonal. Mark thought, what if this could be digital? What if every student could have a profile, connect with friends, and see who's in their social circle? It sounds simple now, almost obvious, but at the time it was revolutionary. Mark's vision wasn't just to make a website. It was to transform the way people perceived connection itself. He wanted a platform where identity could be verified, relationships could be mapped, and communities could thrive organically. He quickly set to work. In his dorm room, Mark began coding tirelessly, sometimes for 12 to 16 hours a day. He experimented with layouts, algorithms, and user interfaces, obsessing over every pixel and line of code. His roommates recall evenings where the only sounds were the hum of computers and Mark muttering to himself, tweaking code, testing ideas, and iterating relentlessly. But the process wasn't without risk. Harvard students were skeptical, professors were cautious, and the existing social networks loomed like giants. Many told him to focus on his studies or to scale back his ambitions. Yet Mark had already glimpsed the future. He wasn't building just another website, he was building a social revolution. And here's the kicker. The idea that started in a dorm room with a few lines of code would soon snowball into something massive, far beyond Harvard's gates. But before Facebook could become the global powerhouse we know today, it had to survive its first test: adoption. How do you convince people to leave their old habits and join a new digital community? That challenge, seemingly small, would shape the early identity of Facebook and force Mark to confront the first of many obstacles on his journey. In February 2004, something extraordinary happened in a Harvard dorm room. Mark Zuckerberg, armed with relentless focus and a vision that few could grasp, launched a website called Facebook. At first, it was just for Harvard students, a simple digital directory where people could create profiles, upload photos, and connect with classmates. But the impact was immediate. Students were obsessed, signing up in droves, sharing profiles, and comparing networks. What started as a small project quickly became a campus sensation. Mark's approach was both brilliant and bold. He created an aura of exclusivity. Only Harvard students could join initially. This scarcity made the platform desirable, turning every profile into a coveted digital presence. The website's clean design, intuitive interface, and social connectivity were unlike anything else available. Unlike clunky competitors like Friendster, Facebook felt modern, personal, and essential. Word spread fast. Within weeks, students at other Ivy League schools clamored to get access. Columbia, Yale, and Stanford were next. By mid-2004, the platform had expanded beyond Harvard entirely. The dorm room project had grown into a movement that seemed unstoppable. But success didn't come without challenges. From the very beginning, Zuckerberg faced ethical and legal questions. The Winklevoss twins and Divya Narendra, fellow Harvard students, claimed that Mark had stolen their idea for a social network called Harvard Connection. Lawsuits and disputes threatened to overshadow the early triumphs, and suddenly, Mark had to navigate not just coding and growth, but the murky waters of intellectual property and rivalry. Even within his team, tensions arose. Eduardo Saverin, his co-founder and friend, provided early funding and administrative support. Yet disagreements over ownership and control would later erupt into bitter conflicts. Zuckerberg's single-minded pursuit of growth sometimes came at the expense of personal relationships, a pattern that would repeat throughout his career. Despite these obstacles, one thing was clear: the idea was working. Facebook was no longer a Harvard novelty. It was a blueprint for global connectivity. Students loved the ability to see friends, discover new connections, and engage in a social network that felt private yet expansive. Mark realized that the platform's potential wasn't limited to colleges. It could touch anyone, anywhere. By late 2004, Facebook dropped the from its name, becoming simply Facebook. With venture capital funding from Peter Thiel, Zuckerberg moved to Palo Alto, California, and began scaling operations. Servers were upgraded, engineers were hired, and the mission expanded. Facebook wasn't just a student network anymore. It was a tool designed to map the social graph of the world. And here's the twist. What started as a college project had now become a global phenomenon, attracting millions of users and capturing the attention of investors and tech giants alike. But as the network grew, so did the challenges: legal battles, internal conflicts, and the enormous pressure of managing a rapidly expanding platform. The stage was set for Zuckerberg's next phase, navigating the tumultuous journey from rising star to billionaire and global influencer. Success, as Mark Zuckerberg would soon discover, is rarely a smooth ride. Just as Facebook was beginning to dominate the college social scene, the very foundations of its creation were being questioned. The early days of the company were not just about coding and scaling. They were a minefield of legal battles, broken friendships, and moral dilemmas. One of the first major controversies involved the Winklevoss twins and Divya Narendra. These Harvard classmates claimed that Zuckerberg had stolen their idea for a social network called Harvard Connection. They alleged that while supposedly helping them, Mark quietly built his own platform instead. The lawsuit that followed was dramatic, highly publicized, and emotionally charged. For Mark, it was an early lesson in the harsh realities of ambition. Vision often clashes with loyalty and trust. Then there was Eduardo Saverin, Zuckerberg's co-founder and early friend. Eduardo had provided initial funding, support, and business guidance. But as Facebook grew, tensions arose over ownership, control, and the direction of the company. Mark's drive for expansion and his single-minded focus led to a fallout that would end in a legal battle, with Eduardo eventually receiving a settlement but being pushed out of the company he helped start. This episode revealed a recurring pattern in Zuckerberg's story. Personal relationships often became casualties of growth. Beyond friendships, Facebook faced constant scrutiny from the public and media. Early critics argued that Zuckerberg's approach was ruthless, even cold. Some labeled him arrogant. Others questioned the ethics of how he handled the platform's expansion and user data. And yet, despite criticism, Zuckerberg pressed on. He understood that disruption is rarely polite and that those who reshape industries often face backlash. Technical and operational struggles added to the pressure. As Facebook expanded beyond Harvard, scaling servers, maintaining uptime, and handling user data became monumental challenges. Every success brought a new set of problems. Security breaches, bugs, and feature rollouts could make or break the platform overnight. Zuckerberg's obsessive attention to detail and willingness to work around the clock became both a strength and a personal burden. These early struggles were crucial. They tested Zuckerberg's resilience, vision, and ability to navigate chaos. Each lawsuit, each betrayal, and each technical failure forced him to make choices that would define not only Facebook's future but his own reputation. By learning to thrive under pressure, Zuckerberg began to evolve from a talented coder into a strategic, if controversial, leader. And yet, for all the battles, betrayals, and public scrutiny, one fact remained undeniable. Facebook was growing at an astonishing pace. The world was beginning to notice, and Mark Zuckerberg was stepping into a realm he had never imagined. A world where billions of users, billions of dollars, and global influence awaited him. By the mid-2000s, Facebook had transcended the boundaries of college campuses. From Harvard, it spread to Ivy League schools, then to universities across the United States, and finally to the entire world. The network that began as a dorm room experiment was now an unstoppable global phenomenon. And with its growth came wealth beyond imagination. In 2005, Facebook received a major investment from Excel Partners, $12.7 million, which allowed Zuckerberg to hire top engineers, expand infrastructure, and refine the product. This injection of capital marked a turning point. The company was no longer a scrappy startup. It was a contender in the tech world, poised to challenge giants and redefine how humans connect online. Zuckerberg, still in his early 20s, was now on the path to becoming a billionaire. But wealth alone doesn't define a billionaire. It's influence, vision, and timing. Facebook's exponential growth meant that Mark's decisions affected millions of users worldwide. Every new feature, algorithm tweak, or privacy change reverberated across the globe. Investors recognized the potential, and by 2007, Zuckerberg was being talked about alongside tech luminaries like Bill Gates and Steve Jobs. The journey wasn't easy. Running a global social network came with constant pressure. Servers crashed under heavy traffic, competitors tried to imitate the model, and public scrutiny intensified. Yet Zuckerberg remained relentless. He had a single-minded focus on growth, innovation, and user engagement. Unlike many entrepreneurs, he prioritized long-term vision over short-term gains, reinvesting revenue to scale the platform rather than cashing out early. By 2010, Facebook had over 500 million active users. Forbes recognized Zuckerberg as the youngest self-made billionaire in history. At just 26, he wasn't just wealthy, he was a cultural force shaping communication, media, and even politics. His influence extended far beyond the tech industry. He was changing the way people socialize, consume information, and interact with the world. But being a billionaire didn't make Zuckerberg invincible. With influence came scrutiny. Governments questioned Facebook's power, media criticized its ethics, and competitors constantly sought to unseat it. Zuckerberg had to learn to navigate complex legal, political, and ethical landscapes while maintaining his vision for global connectivity. The rise to billionaire status was more than a financial milestone. It was a testament to the power of vision, relentless focus, and the willingness to take risks that most people wouldn't dare. Zuckerberg's journey from Harvard dorm room to global icon shows us that extraordinary ambition, coupled with relentless execution, can turn even the most audacious dreams into reality. And yet, wealth alone doesn't tell the full story. The transformation was as much personal as it was professional. A journey from awkward college coder to a leader whose decisions impacted billions. To understand the full picture, we need to explore the transformation that followed the rise and the lessons hidden in his journey. Mark Zuckerberg's rise wasn't just about money or fame. It was about evolving into a figure who could shape the world. Leaving Harvard at 19 was the first bold move in a series of transformations that would redefine not only his life but also the way billions of people connect, communicate, and share information. In the early years, Zuckerberg was known as the quiet, intensely focused coder. He spent long hours in front of his computer, often isolated, consumed by lines of code and ideas for new features. Social events, networking, and even sleep often took a backseat. But as Facebook grew, so did the demands on his presence, leadership, and public persona. He had to transition from programmer to CEO, strategist, and global spokesperson. This transformation wasn't easy. The pressures of managing a company that impacted hundreds of millions of users required Zuckerberg to develop new skills almost overnight. Public speaking, negotiations with powerful investors, and handling the media became daily challenges. He learned to balance vision with pragmatism, innovation with regulation, and ambition with ethics. Part of this transformation was philosophical. Zuckerberg became more than a businessman. He became a social architect, aware that his decisions had profound societal consequences. Facebook wasn't just a product. It was a platform that could influence elections, shape public opinion, and even redefine personal privacy. Zuckerberg realized that leadership meant responsibility, and the choices he made could have global repercussions. His personal brand evolved alongside Facebook. Once the socially awkward student, Zuckerberg now became a public figure whose style, speech, and vision were scrutinized worldwide. The hoodie and casual jeans became his uniform, but behind that simplicity lay a mind capable of navigating complex ethical, technological, and financial landscapes. At the same time, Zuckerberg's transformation wasn't purely about power or influence. He began to focus on long-term goals and social impact. Initiatives like Internet.org and significant philanthropy, including the Chan Zuckerberg Initiative, demonstrated a shift from personal ambition to a broader desire to change the world for the better. The narrative shifted, from college dropout chasing an idea to billionaire tech mogul shaping the global conversation. Yet, this evolution came with sacrifices. Personal relationships were tested, privacy became a battleground, and public scrutiny intensified. Every choice, every decision, carried weight far beyond what most people ever experience. Zuckerberg's journey illustrates a universal truth. True transformation requires leaving comfort zones, embracing responsibility, and continuously growing under pressure. From a dorm room coder to a global influencer, Mark Zuckerberg's story is a testament to how vision, persistence, and adaptability can reshape not just a life, but the world. And embedded in this transformation are lessons that anyone striving for success can apply. Mark Zuckerberg's story is not just about Facebook, billions of dollars, or global influence. It's about the principles, decisions, and mindset that allowed one person to turn a simple idea into a transformative empire. There are key lessons embedded in his journey that anyone striving for success can learn from. 1. Obsession with vision over comfort. From creating Zucknet at age 12 to launching Facebook at 19, Zuckerberg consistently prioritized vision over convenience or comfort. He was willing to forego traditional milestones like completing college because he believed in the potential of his idea. The lesson here: sometimes, stepping off the conventional path is necessary to create something extraordinary. 2. Embrace risk, strategically dropping out of Harvard, rejecting early offers for Synapse, and taking on powerful competitors all involved massive risks. Yet, Zuckerberg's risks were calculated. He combined knowledge, skill, and timing with audacity. Risk isn't reckless. It's intentional action with informed confidence. 3. Persistence through adversity. Legal battles, broken friendships, and public scrutiny could have derailed Facebook's growth. Instead, Zuckerberg used these challenges as fuel for resilience. Success is rarely linear. The ability to persist through criticism, failure, and setbacks is what separates visionaries from the rest. 4. Focus on the long-term. Zuckerberg's choices consistently reflected long-term thinking. Early investors, feature rollouts, and expansion plans were designed to grow Facebook sustainably, not for quick profits. The lesson: focusing on enduring value often outweighs short-term gains. 5. Transform yourself alongside your vision. Perhaps the most subtle but powerful lesson is the importance of personal transformation. Zuckerberg evolved from an awkward dorm room coder into a global influencer and strategic leader. Success isn't just about ideas, it's about growing to meet the demands of your ambition. 6. Ethical and social responsibility matters. With great power comes great scrutiny. Facebook's journey underscores the importance of considering the social and ethical implications of your work. Influence is a double-edged sword, and responsible leadership is crucial when your decisions impact millions. Ultimately, Zuckerberg's story shows that extraordinary success is rarely accidental. It's a mixture of talent, timing, relentless curiosity, calculated risk-taking, and the willingness to evolve personally and professionally. And while not every decision he made was perfect, his ability to keep moving forward, to innovate, and to learn from mistakes is what made him legendary. Mark Zuckerberg teaches us that dreams are built on action, courage, and adaptability, and that the path to success is rarely smooth, but always transformative if you commit fully. Mark Zuckerberg's journey, from a curious, awkward boy in New York to a college dropout who reshaped global communication, is more than just a tale of money and fame. It's a lesson in vision, resilience, and the power of taking risks. His story reminds us that extraordinary impact rarely comes from following the rules. It comes from challenging norms, trusting your instincts, and pursuing ideas relentlessly, even when others doubt you. Zuckerberg didn't just create a website. He created a new way for humans to connect, share, and interact. And in doing so, he proved that one person's vision, when executed with determination and focus, can ripple across the world. Yet, Zuckerberg's journey also teaches balance. Success often comes with sacrifices, ethical dilemmas, and personal challenges. The lawsuits, broken friendships, and public scrutiny show that ambition must be tempered with awareness of its consequences. True greatness lies not just in what you create, but in how you navigate the complex human and moral landscape that comes with it. So, what can we take from this story? First, don't fear taking bold steps. Sometimes leaving the familiar path is the only way to reach extraordinary heights. Second, embrace challenges as learning opportunities. Setbacks aren't failures, they're lessons disguised as obstacles. Third, grow alongside your ambitions. As your ideas scale, so must your mindset, skills, and character. Mark Zuckerberg's life is a masterclass in turning vision into reality. From a dorm room experiment to a global empire, his journey shows us that innovation, courage, and relentless focus can create impact that lasts generations. In the end, whether you're an entrepreneur, student, or dreamer, the key takeaway is simple. Big ideas demand bold action, perseverance, and the willingness to evolve. And perhaps, somewhere in your own journey, lies the next story that will change the world, just like Zuckerberg's did.